Elon Musk's ventures have had a profound impact on various industries. As the head of Tesla, SpaceX, and several other businesses, he's become one of the most influential figures of our time. However, one of his more recent initiatives, the establishment of the Department of Government Efficiency, raises serious concerns. What Musk proposes under DOGE isn't merely a push for better governance or streamlined bureaucratic processes. It's a dangerous move toward the privatization of essential government functions and an alarming concentration of corporate power in the hands of one man and his companies. This script delves into how the Department of Government Efficiency under Musk could potentially dismantle America's democratic system while exploring the broader implications of privatizing essential government functions for profit. As Musk sets out to privatize public services, the public must understand the ramifications of his ambitions and whether they align with their best interests. At first glance, the idea of making government processes more efficient may seem appealing. Musk's DOGE initiative is, on the surface, a promise to reduce wasteful spending, cut through bureaucratic red tape, and streamline the operations of various government services. In theory, privatizing government functions through corporate-run efficiency programs could lower costs, reduce delays, and make services more accessible to the public. However, the reality is far more complex and problematic. Musk's proposal isn't just about making government more efficient, it's about handing control of critical government services to private companies. If successful, this move would be a direct attack on public control, transferring the power to run governmental processes into the hands of corporate executives motivated by profit. As is evident from Musk's other ventures, such as SpaceX and Tesla, corporate motives are rarely aligned with public welfare. The privatization of government services under DOGE would prioritize corporate interests over citizen rights. Essential services such as Social Security, healthcare, education, and defense could be outsourced to Musk's companies or other private corporations, resulting in less accountability, higher costs, and less equitable access for the public. A move like this would undermine the very concept of a government that works for the people, turning the state into a marketplace where only those with deep pockets are given the priority. The concept of privatizing government functions has already gained traction in several areas, including healthcare and infrastructure. Yet these moves are not without their risks. The shift from a public service model to a private, profit-driven model creates an environment where accountability is significantly reduced. The government is expected to serve the public interest, but private companies such as Musk's are driven by the need to generate profit. When companies take control of public services, the profit motive shifts the priorities of these services away from their intended goals. For example, in the healthcare sector, the privatization of services has already led to higher costs for consumers, reduced access for marginalized communities, and a focus on procedures that generate revenue rather than those that genuinely improve public health. If Musk's DOGE successfully privatizes government services, a similar pattern will likely emerge: higher prices, reduced access, and a prioritization of profit over people's needs. Musk's proposal is particularly concerning because it involves the automation and technological integration of services, which could lead to widespread job losses. By using advanced technologies and AI to take over administrative roles, the government would be effectively outsourcing its labor force to machines, resulting in the loss of thousands of jobs. This type of automation may seem like an efficient solution, but the reality is that it could exacerbate social inequalities by leaving vulnerable populations without the support they need. Elon Musk has already become one of the wealthiest individuals in the world, with a net worth that positions him among the most influential figures globally. His financial success in multiple industries has allowed him to gain an unprecedented amount of control and influence. The acquisition of Twitter, SpaceX's dominance in the space industry, and Tesla's position at the forefront of electric vehicle production are just a few examples of Musk's growing power. With DOGE, Musk is seeking to expand this influence into the public sector, where the stakes are much higher. When corporations gain control over government functions, they effectively eliminate the boundary between the private and public spheres. creating a system where corporate monopolies dictate policy. This can have severe consequences for democracy and the functioning of government, as large corporations are not accountable to the public in the same way that elected officials are. Musk's DOGE initiative would give him and his companies an even more disproportionate level of influence over American politics. If he and other corporate leaders succeed in privatizing key government services, they will have the ability to shape policy in ways that favor their financial interests rather than the needs of the population. This represents a fundamental shift in the power dynamics of the country, where the wealthiest individuals and corporations will have the final say on public policy. The privatization of government functions is dangerous because it weakens the role of the state in ensuring fairness, accountability, and equality for all citizens. Government services are intended to be impartial and accessible to everyone, regardless of income or social status. When corporations take over these functions, they are driven by profit motives, meaning they are not concerned with the equal distribution of services, but with maximizing returns. Privatizing core government functions under DOGE could have disastrous effects on essential services. For example, privatization could lead to cuts in social welfare programs like unemployment benefits and food assistance as companies look to reduce costs in order to increase their profits. Similarly, the privatization of the military, police, and fire services could result in situations where these services are only available to the wealthy, creating an unequal society where the most vulnerable are left unprotected. In sectors like education and healthcare, privatization has already shown to exacerbate inequalities. Charter schools and private healthcare providers often operate in ways that serve wealthier communities, leaving poorer populations with fewer resources and less access to essential services. If DOGE successfully privatizes these systems, it would increase the gap between the rich and the poor, as further entrenching existing societal inequalities. One of the key arguments in favor of privatization is that it leads to greater efficiency. Advocates argue that private companies can manage resources better than government entities and deliver services more effectively. While this may be true in some cases, the broader implications of privatization are far more concerning. Corporations are profit-driven, and their main concern is generating returns for shareholders. This is in stark contrast to the government's role, which is to serve the public interest. When private companies run government services, they prioritize profit over people. This creates a fundamental conflict of interest, as corporations will do whatever it takes to maximize their revenue, even if it means cutting corners or denying essential services to those who need them most. Allowing corporations to privatize government functions is not only a threat to the services themselves, but also to democracy. The influence of money and corporate power over government institutions leads to a system where the will of the people is less important than the interests of the wealthy few. This concentration of power erodes democratic principles, making it harder for citizens to hold their government accountable and ensuring that public policies favor those with the most money. Elon Musk's DOGE initiative is a prime example of the increasing concentration of power in the hands of a few individuals and corporations. As private companies continue to encroach upon government functions, they erode the democratic principles that serve as the foundation of the country. When corporations control government services, they gain significant influence over political decision-making. They can shape policy, direct public funds to their companies, and influence elections through lobbying and donations, all while remaining outside the bounds of democratic accountability. The privatization of government services also raises concerns about transparency. With private companies taking over public services, citizens will no longer have the same level of access to information or control over how services are delivered. Corporate interests are not subject to the same level of scrutiny and oversight as government entities, which means that decisions made behind closed doors may not align with the public's best interests. Elon Musk's DOGE initiative presents a troubling future for America's democracy. By pushing for the privatization of government services, Musk risks concentrating power in the hands of a few wealthy individuals, allowing them to control vital services and manipulate policy for their own benefit. As corporations gain control over public services, the rights of citizens will be sacrificed in favor of profit. The growing trend of privatization and corporate influence over government functions poses a significant threat to the democratic ideals that have guided the United States since its founding. If Musk and other corporate leaders succeed in their efforts to privatize essential services, it could result in a society where access to services is based on wealth rather than need, and where the interests of the wealthy few overshadow the needs of the broader population. As citizens, we must remain vigilant and question the motives behind initiatives like DOGE. While efficiency and innovation are important, they should not come at the cost of fairness, transparency, and accountability. The future of America depends on whether we allow corporations to privatize our government or whether we demand that public services remain in the hands of those who are truly accountable to the people. If you found this discussion on Elon Musk's DOGE initiative and the privatization of government services insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think privatization is a step forward or a threat to democracy? Leave your comments below and let's keep the conversation going. Your support helps us bring these important topics to light, so be sure to subscribe and stay informed.